is to know the difference. This is why returning to truth gives you power. You no longer need to win every exchange. You no longer need to correct every misunderstanding. You no longer need to make every person see you clearly. You become more interested in being clear within yourself. And when a person becomes clear within themselves, they stop begging the world to confirm their worth. The next time someone provokes you, do not run first to pride. Return to the body. Return to the breath. Return to the simple question, is there truth here? If yes, bow inwardly to the lesson and grow. If no, let it fall before it enters you. In this way, the insult loses its power, the ego loses its throne, and truth becomes the ground beneath your feet. When truth becomes the ground beneath your feet, silence no longer feels like defeat. It becomes a place of command. Most people misunderstand silence because they only know two forms of it: the silence of fear and the silence of suppression. The silence of fear is when you say nothing because you are afraid to speak. The silence of suppression is when you say nothing while anger poisons you from the inside. Neither of these is real strength. Real silence is different. Real silence is awake. Real silence is chosen. Real silence is the moment you feel the impulse to react, but you do not let the impulse become your master. It is not the absence of power. It is power that has not been wasted. Look at the body of a trained fighter. They do not throw every strike because they can. They do not move every time someone tries to pull them. They do not spend energy to prove they are dangerous. Their stillness is not empty. Their stillness is loaded with awareness. In the same way, a trained mind does not answer every insult. Not because it has no answer, but because it has learned the cost of answering from the wrong place. A sentence born from anger may feel sharp, but often it cuts the hand that holds it. A reaction born from wounded pride may silence the room, but it leaves noise inside the heart. This is why silence must be understood as discipline, not avoidance. When someone provokes you and you remain silent with awareness, you are doing something very difficult. You are holding fire without throwing it. You are feeling pressure without leaking energy. You are letting the body burn for a moment without giving the burn a voice. This is training. This is inner martial art. This is the practice of keeping your center while another person tries to pull you into their chaos. The untrained person believes every gap must be filled. They fear the pause. They fear the space after an insult. They think, if I do not answer now, they will think I am weak. But this fear is the ego begging for a witness. It wants the room to see that it can defend itself. It wants applause. It wants the satisfaction of a sharp return. But the deeper self does not need to perform strength. The deeper self is interested in remaining whole. There is a kind of silence that makes the provocateur uncomfortable because it gives them nothing to push against. They came expecting a reaction. They came expecting heat. They came expecting you to step into the same low frequency. But when you breathe and remain still, their words begin to stand alone. Their aggression has no partner. Their poison has nowhere to land. Their noise returns to them. This is why a calm pause can reveal more than 1,000 arguments. It shows the difference between the one who is ruled by impulse and the one who is rooted in awareness. But silence does not mean you never speak. Silence is not the end of expression. It is the purification of expression. First you become still. Then you speak only if speech is needed. First you return to the body. Then you choose words that do not betray your dignity. Sometimes the strongest response is no response. Sometimes it is one sentence, spoken slowly, without heat. I hear you. That is not acceptable. We can speak when this is calmer. I will not continue this conversation in this tone. These words do not need anger to become strong. In fact, anger often weakens them. A boundary spoken from chaos invites more chaos. A boundary spoken from stillness has weight. It lands because it is not begging, it is not attacking, it is not performing, it is simply true. This is the art of inner control. You do not silence yourself because others are powerful. You become silent because your energy is sacred. You do not withhold words because you are small. You withhold them because not every moment deserves your life force. Every reaction spends something. Every argument spends something. Every attempt to prove yourself to the unready spends something. And a disciplined person learns to ask, is this worth my energy? Will this sentence serve clarity? Or will it only feed fire? Will this response protect truth or only protect pride? When you live this way, silence becomes a weapon without violence. It cuts through the need to be seen. It cuts through the addiction to winning. It cuts through the habit of handing your inner state to anyone with a careless mouth. The world will call you weak when it cannot control you. Let it. The world will confuse your restraint with fear. Let it. A mountain does not explain its stillness to the wind. It simply remains, and when you can remain silent without shrinking, when you can stay still without hardening, when you can choose words only after the storm inside you has passed, then your silence is no longer empty. It is full of training. It is full of power. It is the sound of a person who has learned to command themselves. Silence becomes powerful when the insult is small. But the real training begins when the wound is deep. It is one thing to stay calm when a stranger disrespects you. It is another thing to stay rooted when someone you trusted becomes the source of your pain. Betrayal has a different weight. It does not only touch your pride, it touches your memory. It touches the place where you once offered loyalty. It touches the part of you that believed another person was safe. When betrayal happens, something inside you wants to harden. The heart says, never again. The mind says, make them feel what they made you feel. The body fills with heat, not only anger, but grief, confusion, humiliation, and disbelief. You do not just feel attacked, you feel foolish for trusting, and this is where pain becomes dangerous. Not because pain is wrong, pain is honest. Pain tells you that something mattered. Pain tells you that a bond was broken. Pain tells you that a boundary was crossed. But if pain is not trained, it begins to look for revenge. It begins to search for a body to punish. It begins to whisper that cruelty will restore balance. It tells you that if you become colder, sharper, harder, and more ruthless, then no one will ever hurt you like this again. But listen carefully. This is the moment where the wound tries to become your teacher. And not every teacher should be followed. A wound can show you where you were open, but it cannot show you how to live. A wound can warn you, but it cannot be allowed to lead you. If you let betrayal become your master, it will slowly shape you into the very energy that hurt you. You will call it protection, but it will be armor made from bitterness. You will call it strength, but it will be fear standing upright. You will call it wisdom, but it will be the death of trust disguised as maturity. This is why the deepest discipline is not only to survive betrayal. The deepest discipline is to survive betrayal without becoming false. You may need distance. You may need silence. You may need to close a door. You may need to remove someone from the inner circle of your life. None of this is weakness. None of this is hatred. A clear boundary is not revenge. A quiet departure is not cruelty. Protecting your peace does not require poisoning your heart. The trained person understands that forgiveness and access are not the same. You can release the fire without reopening the gate. You can stop carrying the hatred without inviting the same hand to strike again. You can wish to be free from bitterness while still choosing not to return to what broke your trust. This is the middle path of strength, not revenge, and not blind softness, not cruelty, and not self-abandonment. Betrayal asks you to become unconscious. It asks you to react from the wound. It asks you to make your future smaller because your past was painful. But awareness asks something higher. It asks you to feel the pain fully without letting pain become your identity. It asks you to learn the lesson without worshiping the scar. It asks you to become more discerning, not more dead, more awake, not more afraid, more rooted, not more closed. When someone betrays you, they reveal something about themselves, but your response reveals something about your training. Can you hurt without becoming hateful? Can you remember without becoming imprisoned? Can you walk away without needing to destroy? Can you let the heart break open and still choose not to turn it into a weapon? This is not easy. This is why it is training. Anyone can become bitter after betrayal. Bitterness requires no discipline. Revenge requires no awakening. Closing the heart forever requires no wisdom. The rare path is to stay human after being hurt, to let the pain teach you boundaries, not cruelty, to let it teach you discernment, not suspicion of everything, to let it teach you depth, not darkness. There will be moments when you want to strike back. There will be nights when the memory returns. There will be times when the mind rehearses what you should have said, what you should have done, how you could make them regret it. In those moments, return to the breath. Place your attention in the body. Feel the fire without feeding it. Say inwardly, I will not let this pain choose my character. I will not become the shape of what wounded me. I will learn. I will step back. I will protect my life. But I will not hand my soul to bitterness. This is how betrayal becomes a doorway in the body instead of a prison. Feel the fire without feeding it. That strength is not the ability to hurt back. I will not let this pain choose my character. Is the ability to remain clean in a world that gives you reasons to become contaminated. I will step back. And when you can leave what betrayed you without becoming what betrayed you, but I will not hand my soul to bitterness. You have won a battle deeper than revenge. Betrayal when you refuse to let pain turn you into what hurt you, feel the fire without feeding. The next lesson that strength is not the ability to hurt back. I will not let this pain mean you allow everything. Peace does not mean you become available for disrespect. Stillness does not mean you stand there while another person keeps crossing the line. Many people misunderstand inner discipline because they think a calm person must always be soft, always forgiving, always silent, always easy to reach. But that is not peace. That is self-abandonment wearing a spiritual mask. True calm has a spine. True peace has a boundary. True awareness knows when to open the hand and when to close the gate. If someone insults you once, you can breathe and observe. If someone keeps insulting you, you can step back and speak clearly. If someone betrays you, you can choose not to hate them. But you do not have to hand them the same access to your life. This is where many people lose balance. They think there are only two choices: explode or accept, attack or endure, become aggressive or become passive. But there is a third way, the way of conscious boundary. A boundary spoken from awareness is very different from a boundary shouted from anger. Anger says, "You hurt me, so now I will hurt you." Awareness says, "This is not aligned, and I will not continue here." Anger wants punishment. Awareness wants clarity. Anger tries to control the other person. Awareness takes responsibility for your own gate. When you set a boundary from calm, you are not asking permission to protect your peace. You are not begging to be understood. You are not performing strength for the room. You are simply telling the truth with your whole body. Your breath is steady. Your voice is low. Your eyes do not run. Your words are few. That is why they land. You might say, "I hear you, but I will not accept being spoken to this way." You might say, "We can continue this conversation when